This meeting is officially called to order. Melanie, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Here.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Here.
Director Du,
Here.
and Director Hannaberry.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Now, I know Director Alba was taking ill, and I don't know if is she joining us virtually?
That's correct. I'm sorry, Director Alba.
Yes, I am here. I'm trying to turn on my video. Hi, everyone. I am not feeling well and don't want to risk spreading whatever I have to anyone in the room. So I'm taking this call from here and available. And there is no one in this room other than me, and there are no individuals over 18 present with me.
Are you sure?
I am very sure. It's just me.
We take your word for it, because someone could be hiding under something. With that, if you would please arise if you can and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May take your seats. So, welcome to San Francisco Bay Ferry's Board of Directors meeting. This monthly meeting is being conducted in person and by video conference. It's being recorded. To reduce background noise, all video conference participants will be joining the meeting in listen-only mode and will be muted during the discussion. SF Bay Ferry welcomes comments from the public. A public comment period will be set aside after each discussion period and will be accepted in person and by video conference. Video conference participants wishing to speak are requested to please email your name and item number you'd like to comment on to boardofdirectors@sfbayferry.com. If you're unable to send an email, you will be given an opportunity to speak on the item after those who have signed up. So thank you. We'll move into the agenda, so I'll keep my comments brief. Obviously, very busy time. We're 2 to 3 days from the completion of this year's legislative session, so there's a lot of action happening in Sacramento, and perhaps Executive Director Murphy and team will give us the latest update, because it actually changes by the hour at this point. But I think there's some looming good news for us, good being that we're moving forward on most things. And my understanding is, I don't know, you could comment further, but on one bill, SB 71, which is a green transportation bill, somehow or other, the notion of CEQA relief for ferry terminals got worked into that. Lauren's shaking her head. So I think that could be pretty good news for us. On another bill, SB 79, unfortunately, ferries were considered to be not frequent enough service to merit CEQA relief for housing in the areas of transportation stops, including ferry terminals, which I consider to be unfortunate. And a reminder to me, and it should be to all of us, that it's really important for our organization and the ferry community to stay on top of stuff and really work together and be our own advocates. Because sometimes, not that anybody's against us, but you've got to really in this crazy world, you have to really be aware of what's in your interest and how to protect it and so forth. And to me, I've spoken at great length about if we want this system to be all that it can be, we have to enable activity around these terminals. The best first mile, last mile fix is to have people either working or living or both by ferry terminals. And if we want to see that happen, there's a lot of resistance to development on the waterfront. And the ferry terminals tend to be on the waterfront, right? So we really want to, at some point, kind of gain the ability to amass a population near these terminals. And this particular bill would have accomplished that, but we got pulled out of it. and that was disturbing. But, on the other hand, we got some relief for terminals themselves, which take a long time to create, apparently through SB 71. So that'll all more or less shake itself out. But, I just want to remind as we go forward, that we need, I think the staff has done a terrific job standing up for us as I read the legislative reports. Both from the state and the feds, we've got a really good team of professionals who serve us, and I'm pleased with the outcomes. But I'm one of those people who's never quite pleased enough. So I direct your attention to this. On the bill itself, well, it's not on the agenda. We're in the packet, we're listed as a supporter of SB 79, which either puts us in the category of being nice people, or like maybe missed an opportunity to say, well, we're not in the bill, so why should we support a bill that doesn't include it? So that's probably for the staff to kind of take a look at. That's bill, by the way, like some of these others, like SB 71 is in part the work, we're the sponsor of the bill, Bay Area Council is. So what I'm suggesting is maybe we should pull out of a bill that we are sponsoring. So a little bit of but anyway, we all have to be flexible. So with that, I know we've got some guests in town that I'm going to change the agenda, I think, at this point, and ask Seamus to intro you because they have to leave, and I want to make sure that they have a chance to address the board. So I'm going to we're going to do item 11, public comment on non-agendized items twice, if we can do that, Stephen. So we can do a piece of it now. We'll do 11A now and 11B later. So I'll turn it over to Executive Director Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wonderman. Want to introduce Mike Corrigan and Sherry Corrigan from Interferry. They're the staff at Interferry. Tim Mooney is also here with his wife, Jane. Tim is the chair of the Interferry Board of Directors and runs Fire Island Ferries. Interferry is an organization that we're a part of. The other operators that operate ferry service in the Bay Area, public and private, are also members for more or less of Interferry. Some of them are here. I know that the folks from Alcatraz City Cruises / Hornblower are here. And we joined an effort to make a proposal to Interferry that they move their 2028 conference and have that in San Francisco in the Bay Area. It would be perfect timing for us, of course, to have it in here in 2028 with everything that we're doing on the decarbonization front and the ferry renaissance that we think is happening here. We always talk about how there used to be 60 million ferry riders at one point a year in San Francisco in the Bay Area, and we're over 3 million now. Long way to go. I'm sure by 2028 we're going to have made a tremendous amount of progress. So the Interferry organization is a great one. I was introduced to this organization shortly after taking the role here at San Francisco Bay Ferry. They host a conference that moves around to different parts of the world, and they really are the premier organization representing ferry operators around the world. Just a tremendous advocate for the ferry community, for the maritime industry. The work that they do on the regulatory front, I think, is second to none, and the opportunities that they create for engagement throughout the industry, I think, are the best in the industry. So I want to welcome Mike Corrigan up to talk about the organization and talk about where they are in their conference selection process. They're, of course, here in San Francisco doing a site visit to see if we're a good place to host the conference in 2028. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Seamus. It's a pleasure to be here. You pretty much stole all my thunder, so I can take my notes and kind of go like this. But no, one thing Seamus did not say is that he's a director of the Interferry board. He'll be the incoming vice chair of Interferry, and if things go as planned, in 3 years he'll take over the chairmanship of Interferry worldwide. So we're very lucky to have Seamus in his direction and participation at Interferry. So we are an organization that's around the world. We're bordering on 300 members now. I would say about half of them come from Europe, which isn't surprising. If you've been to Europe and been in the Baltic or the Mediterranean or the North Sea or the North Channel, you'll see the number of ferries there. But there's a lot in North America, and there's obviously a lot here. This is a real hub, San Francisco. And in fact, when people ask me, where should they go to see what's happening from a technology standpoint in the world around emissions and those sorts of things, I point them to a number of places. And one is actually San Francisco and the things that WETA is doing. So congratulations to that. You guys are doing a fantastic job, definitely under great leadership. So Interferry does about a number of things, but there's 4 things we focus on. Networking, because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, if you're operating ferries, you pretty much have the same challenges. I know it's not going to be surprising, but you have to deal with emissions, with fuel, with new technology, with customers, with politicians. Imagine that you have to deal with politicians every so often, bureaucrats, and all those other things. And from what I found in my many years of operating ferries, I was CEO of BC Ferries up in Canada for a number of years. The things don't change. So if you can send people from San Francisco to our conferences and to learn from others, you go up the learning curve so much more quicker. So that makes a lot of sense. So networking, and then with that is best practices, as we talked about. There's a lot of people out there that are trying to figure out where the world's going from a GHG remission standpoint. The waters get muddied every so often, but there is a push towards zero emissions. So, and people are trying to make sure that they're on the leading edge instead of the bleeding edge, because you can spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time chasing the wrong technology. So our members work with each other to make sure that they share that information. Seamus talked about the regulatory benefits of Interferry. So we're the only organization that has status at the International Maritime Organization in London to speak on behalf of the ferry industry. And that's important because ferries are very much different than other facets of shipping. Our sector basically is unique. I mean, you just have to look at a ferry versus other types of vessel to see the challenges when the regulators are putting in whatever rules there might be. So we have to be there to protect our members at the international level, but that trickles down to the national level with the Coast Guard and with other regulatory bodies. So I think there's a huge benefit to be part of the Interferry family. The thing that we're most proud of that we've been spending a lot of time on lately, and our chairman who's back there, raise your hand, and Sherry, who's our director of conferences, and Jane, who's the first lady of Interferry. We spent a lot of time in Africa in the last year and a half trying to improve safety in the developing world. Because if we're going to represent all of Interferry worldwide, we have to get there and help people that need their help. So we've been spending a lot of time in Africa, and it's been a real enlightening experience in terms of what we've been able to do there. So I don't want to take up too much more of your time, just to say that we've been to San Francisco before for board meetings. Seamus has thrown WETA's name in the hat along with the other operators in the San Francisco area to come as a potential for a conference for 2028. Our conference this year, just for your information, is in Sorrento, Italy. It's sold out, unfortunately, if you're still thinking about going, but we have about 550 people coming. So Sorrento, Italy this year, Bangkok, Thailand next year, Finland in 2027, and the first opportunity now is 2028. So we're here looking at the facilities, doing our assessment. We'll go back and report to our board of directors who will ultimately make the decision. But this is a very important ferry hub for Interferry, and whether we're here in 2028 or sometime in the future, we will definitely be back. So thanks for your time today. I appreciate it. I'm not sure what the protocol is, if I can take questions or if I have to get run out of the building now or what happens.
I'm sure the board might have a question or two. I just wanted to point out, we also have Pat Murphy from Blue and Gold here, Joe Burgard from Red and White. They joined us in making the pitch that the conference be in San Francisco in 2028. So we really do have all hands on deck approach to this, and it's great to have everybody united.
I should also mention that you'll notice you have a bunch of swag up there. I'm sure it's underneath whatever your limits are for personal gifts. A ball cap, thank you. Ball cap and a couple of our I love ferry stickers. So wear them with pride, please.
Thank you, Mr. Corrigan and your and group, and welcome, and I hope you'll seriously consider the opportunity that is San Francisco and the SF Bay Ferry and our partners in the region. It happened after I met you an hour and a half ago that I had lunch with the new head of marketing for SF Travel, which is the association that actually helps bring conferences like this to San Francisco. So I mentioned, because you mentioned this possibility, and she was excited and offered, her help and the help of her organization, which is, to help convince you, not just to convince you to come, but to make sure that when you do, that this will be very, very successful, and you'll be welcomed here. And the people who come here they won't just feel safe and welcome, they'll have an amazing time. And as you go around San Francisco, especially these days, the excitement is kind of palpable. People are, the more and more conventions are coming back and signing up. And, we took a kind of a hit on our reputation for a couple of years following the pandemic and those things. But, very quickly, those things are falling aside. And what we're finding is, people who are coming here by very large percentages are recommending to their friends to come, like 87%. So it's a very, very positive trend here. And I think it's, when it comes to the experience people have, the food people eat, the things people do, it's, and the venues that we offer, especially our, by then, zero emission ferry boats, it's just, I think it'll be the right place at the right time. So anything that we can do to help convince you, consider us, here to, both welcome you and cajole you into making the right decision. So thank you very much. Appreciate you, and safe return.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak, and good luck with everything as you guys move forwards towards zero emission. You're in good hands with Seamus, so
Yeah.
I know you'll get there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very, very much. Okay, with that, let's go back to the reports of my fellow directors. So I'll start on my right with Vice Chair Monique Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So first and foremost, I'd just like to thank the MTC for hosting us today, and to the staff of MTC for your support in making this beautiful room available to us. And then to the crew from Interferries, thank you for the work that you do. I had a long stint as support director here in San Francisco, and I really prize the work that you do for us internationally. Having a voice for ferries internationally is really important, and I'm really pleased that you are making such a concerted effort around safety. But I do want you to know that there is no waterfront like the San Francisco waterfront, and we have hosted amazing events here, not the least of which is the absolute best America's Cup the world has ever seen. And so just to piggyback on what our chair has said, I do hope that you'll come here. You'll have a waterfront that will speak to all of your attendees in a way that only the best waterfronts in the world do, but ours is by far the best. So we'll look forward to seeing you in 2028. Hurry back. Other than that, it's just been a very a tragic time in our history of our country and the world. Frankly, there's a lot going on, and so I just I want to just bring that to the attention of everyone, and just make sure that all of us are really vigilant in see something, say something, and keeping everyone feeling as safe and secure as possible, and enjoying their travels across the bay. It's a beautiful place, serene place, and probably more important than ever. So thank you all again for all that you do. That's it for me.
Thank you, Vice Chair Moore. Let me turn to Member Pippin Dew.
Thank you, Chair Wonderman. And not much for me to report. Echo the comments of the Chair and Vice Chair. Would love to have the Interferry here in 2028. As I said to Mr. Corrigan earlier, would just really welcome the opportunity to have that convention here, and would do everything we could to welcome you with open arms. And then I did want to share also, I have the opportunity next week. I'm going to be in Chula Vista for a conference for the California Association of Realtors, and I'm going to be touring Marine Group Shipyard Wednesday morning. So I'm excited for that opportunity to see. Yeah, so it's very interesting to me, particularly with all the conversations about shipbuilding in Solano County, because Marine Group is nestled right in between a brand new resort that's literally across the street where the convention I'm going to is at, and on the other side, Marine Preserve. So you know, I hear comments on occasion that shipbuilding is not conducive to being next to these kinds of things. And so, but it does. It's working well there. So I'm excited to go see it.
And it's nice that we're having some serious conversations in the region now about the future of shipbuilding. Very, very serious. So we'll work together, I'm sure, on that. Director Henneberry, you liked us enough to come back for your second meeting, so we appreciate that. What would you like to offer?
I don't really have much of a report except to say that when I walked up here, I saw the hat and I thought, what the heck is interferry? So appreciate the report. That was very interesting. And I've been on those boats up in BC. So did he leave already? Okay, well, whatever. I'll cut that short then. I went to the Maritime Trades Lunch yesterday, which is a coalition of maritime unions. And there's a lot of talking going on about the development of shipbuilding in the Bay again.
Yeah.
So we're going to be keeping a close eye on that.
Very
Sounds
much
like
so.
There's some promise out there.
I spoke to the Solano County EDC, Economic Development Corporation, this morning about that, because, that is a very live proposal in Solano County, and it's going to need our help. It's going to need labor's help. It's going to need business help, regional support, because it really is the scale of it is absolutely of regional and greater regional consequence. So we need to, I think this is our opportunity, perhaps in the not too many years, to actually be building our vessels right here where they should be built. Let me go to Director Alba on the screen.
Thank you, Chair Wunderman. I'm going to keep this very, very short. I echo everything that my fellow board members have already said. Great summaries and statements. There's a lot going on, both locally, regionally, statewide, and nationally and globally, and it's a lot to track. Very excited about the opportunity to bring Interferry here in 2028. So rooting for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope you feel better quickly. So let me turn it over to the staff and Executive Director Murphy and team. I think in reading the report, there's so much good that's going on and positive developments, and you could feel more and more people are using the system, and revenues are where they should be rather than where they shouldn't, and those kinds of things, which we appreciate. Yesterday was a tough day. The tough incident that occurred, not something that happens very often or should. So maybe we can talk, at least mention what's going on. So thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Chair Wonderman. You have a number of reports in your packet. We want to call attention to a few of those. We're always looking for ways to improve our service. We know that. We have a number of activities in the works. We want to improve the cost effectiveness of our service, and that starts with some of the routes that are the least cost effective. So we've started with South San Francisco and want to give the staff an opportunity to talk about our look at South San Francisco service and how it might be adjusted, the process that we have going with the community to get feedback from them on how the service is working and what can be done better. I want to welcome Tom and Mike up to talk about that one.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, directors of the board. So we brought an item to the board in May, summarizing a plan that we had to do a public outreach process to explore options for restructuring the South San Francisco ferry service. The general goal of that study is to consider changes for the service that would bring it more in line with the financial and service productivity performance of our other routes. And so we kicked off that process about a month and a half ago. So we convened a working group of stakeholders that included employers, staff from county and local jurisdictions that have a stake in the project, as well as some community organizations. And we've had 2 meetings to date with that working group. The first meeting really focused on kind of developing a common understanding of the performance of the route and really all get on the same page about why we're doing this study. And the second meeting, we brought forth some potential options that we would consider when we talk about restructuring the service. And so we got feedback from the working group on some of those options. We also received feedback from the working group about a proposed public outreach process that maybe I'll let Tom speak a little bit more about. That's going to commence next week. We already have the survey live. And in addition to getting feedback on those options from the working group, we know it's important to get feedback from the people that currently ride the service and would potentially ride the service in the future. So we're going to compile all of that information together as we move forward and ultimately working towards potentially a recommendation to restructure the service that would come before this board in the near-term future. So I'll let Tom speak a bit to the public outreach process.
Thanks, Mike. Tom Hall, Director of Operations and Customer Experience. So our public outreach process really began with releasing a survey that we did late last week. Already more than 500 responses, largely from current riders. Our intent with the survey is to both get the feedback on some of the options that we presented to the working group from every existing rider, in addition to current non-riders that could potentially benefit from service in the future, wherever they currently live or work. If they live or work in South San Francisco or the surrounding areas, they're a valued stakeholder for us. And so we want to hear from them. We're confident we're going to hear from every rider. To that point, next week we'll be holding a couple of ferry chats on the early morning ferries from the East Bay to South San Francisco. That'll be staffed by both public outreach and planning staff to get feedback, make people aware of the process. The week after that, we'll be holding two events, one in-person event at the South San Francisco Ferry Terminal on the 25th, I believe, in the afternoon. So as people come to get on the ferry for their ride home, or if they're getting off of work and before they jump in their car, they can come down to the ferry terminal and we'll have information for them down there. And then we'll be holding a virtual event the following day on a Friday in the midday, hoping that folks that can't make it Thursday afternoon can jump on, hear a little bit about the process and the options going forward, and make their voice heard. The survey will close around the end of the month, and we'll be compiling those results, presenting them to the working group, and as Mike said, bringing recommendations from the working group back to the board in the winter. We're making clear to everyone that no service changes are planned to take effect until mid 2026 at the earliest. So this is a long advanced process to really get the best process, to get the best result for everyone involved. With that, I think we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
So on the survey respondents, do you know how many were Solano County riders by chance?
So far, we haven't analyzed the data
Okay.
because it's only been open for a few days, but we will track that.
The only reason I ask is because when I saw it this morning on the screen, I was like, oh, and then I thought I had already taken it because Solano Transportation Authority had just done a survey. And so I was confused in the moment. I was like, oh, I've already done that survey. And so I didn't click on it. But just so that you know, perhaps if we're not seeing Solano riders respond as we are in other areas, that could be the case. We might need to do a little extra outreach so they understand it's a different survey.
It's great to hear. We are relying a lot on the employers and Oyster Point. That's how we feel we've gotten most of the respondents so far, is through their email distribution. We'll be doing some additional direct communication to our riders across all routes to make sure that they're aware of what this survey is about. Because we do partner with other organizations to promote their surveys, transportation organizations especially. I think we've done one for each of the 3 East Bay counties that we operate in within the past few months. So we want to avoid the survey overload, but make sure we get everyone who could be impacted by this. Good point.
So, yeah, I had a conversation with Fergus O'Shea, who's the head of, I guess, infrastructure for Genentech. So that particular terminal, heavily serves that population. And, a lot of folks who work at Genentech work in a different way than they worked before the pandemic. But, there is, like with other companies, there is a sort of pull back to working in person and so forth. So I was wondering what conversations took place with them, because they're such a big stakeholder in the mix of this.
They've been phenomenal presence at the working group meetings and in terms of helping us with the outreach. They really understand the issues that we're facing. We were able to talk to them before we got this process started, just to familiarize themselves, give them a heads up of what was coming, and have a real open dialogue between Genentech and us. And so that continues. They're a vocal presence at the working group meetings and a huge help in outreaching to both their employees that ride the ferry, in addition to the other employers, especially the smaller employers that exist in that area because Genentech is there. They've been a wonderful conduit in providing, in the past, information about the ferry service to those folks, in addition to getting feedback to us on what would work. So yeah, we're closely working with the transportation folks at Genentech and the other major employers down there, including Stripe, Amgen, and the others.
I get the, the necessity of, looking from a cost and usage perspective, philosophically, I have trouble with retreat in this business, in a system that's really was designed for expansion. And I know we have to deal with the realities of the market and so forth, but to the extent that we can either help shape trends or look at future trends. I know a lot of the companies here in downtown San Francisco just doesn't look like it did a couple of months ago. It's markedly changed. So I don't know if we're seeing that in the ridership at all, or whether Genentech is sort of bought into that yet. To the extent that maybe some other companies are so doing. But my hope would be more, not less, in the future. But in any case, that's my my bias is toward growth, which you probably know. Director or more?
Yep. Thank you both for all that you're doing there. And I know it's of interest, particularly to Stripe, who I've had conversations with in the past. Tom, did I understand that you said you're doing outreach on the ferries, but then also on land as well?
That's right.
And given the geography of Oyster Point, is it just at the ferry terminal, or is it at the highway side as well?
Great question. So for our in-person event, we just plan to host it at the terminal itself. One thing we can take away is to reach out to those companies that are a little further from the ferry terminal to make ourselves available to come and talk to employees if they like. We're really hoping for the digital survey to really capture as much as possible. And to be frank, hopefully this doesn't discourage anyone from taking it, but it's kind of a long survey. We're asking a lot of detailed information from folks about how they use the ferry, how they could use the ferry, what days they're working, all of that information. But that's a great point that we could take it off site a little bit and get further out into South San Francisco.
Well, as someone who's got lost out there in my car, you can drive around for 10 minutes and
Definitely.
like at that point, someone's just going to hop on the freeway.
Yeah.
And so I just wonder if you'd have a better capture rate if you're
That's a great
the
point.
folks who are in their cars already, if you're
We'll
picking
reach
them
out
up
and
employers
look
or
for
whatever.
some options.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
I'm just curiosity. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
Good point. I can't see Director Alba. If she was wanting to speak, I wouldn't be able to know it.
No feedback at this point. I'm very happy that this work is being done, so I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thanks very much. We appreciate the update.
Okay, with that, I think, Mike, are you staying up here for the Pilot Service Committee update? Thank you to Director Stu and Hennenberry for participating on the Pilot Service Committee. We've obviously had a lot of activity in this area, a lot of it that we want to continue to talk about and to expand on. Major successes, and we've had an opportunity to update the committee on what may be coming next and some of what we've done and how it's performed. And Mike is going to summarize that for us.
Thanks, Seamus, and thanks, Director Hannaberry and Director Dew, for your time. About 2 weeks ago, we went through a full recap of the pilot service program, and I really appreciate your feedback and support on the program. So we're almost 2 years into the program here. This was an outcome of our 2050 service vision, which also includes a business plan that'll be forthcoming later this year. But one of the big outcomes of the board approval of that service vision in May of 2024 was the kickoff of the pilot service program. The kind of high-level goals of the program are really twofold. we're looking to test new technologies that could open up opportunities for expansion services that face constraints in our current operating model today. So that's kind of the first higher level goal. Second higher level goal is to move beyond regional transportation demand models, which can be very limited for transit and transportation in general, but particularly for water transit service, and use the pilot program as an opportunity to actually test the real market demand for a service that may or may not exist. And so with those goals in mind, if we can move to the next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you. We've vetted a work program, as we periodically do with the pilot subcommittee, that defines the work we'll undertake for the upcoming fiscal year. So this is in part driven by the formal goals that the board of directors, the full board of directors, has created for the pilot service program for FY26. And those formal goals include exploring the development of pilot projects that use high capacity vessels, potentially zero emission foiling vessels on the Vallejo route, as well as a pilot project that would explore the use of new technologies and potentially assess market demand for a new service operating out of the Martinez location. So specifically on that one, we're looking at a connecting service that would kind of feed the Martinez market into our existing Richmond service, allowing passengers to move on to San Francisco. So those are the formal projects. I think a working assumption with this program is that we are flexible and in a way opportunistic. So as other opportunities present themselves in the course of the year, we don't necessarily need to strictly adhere to this list of formal goals. With the guidance of the subcommittee and the full board, we'll pursue other opportunities as well. And you'll see some of those opportunities listed in the subsequent work program here. Next slide, please. In terms of the roles and the function of the pilot service committee for this program, we really look to Directors Dew and Henneberry to confirm and advise the work program that we have. So this is decisions that we're making on projects that are in the implementation phase, and as well as our work program for future development projects. An important part of the program is providing transparency and accountability for these pilot projects at the onset. And so we do a lot of work to formalize goals and objective statements that allow us, once a pilot program project is concluded, to evaluate the success or not of that project against a set of predetermined goals. We then take the results of those evaluations, and you'll see an item later in the agenda today presenting the results of our sea change demonstration project. We take those results to the full board after previewing them with the subcommittee. And then we rely on the subcommittee, and this will be potentially relevant in months to come, to really advise staff on action items that relate to the pilot program that will eventually be brought in front of the full board for consideration. So particularly on the two projects that are distinct goals for this year, the Vallejo project and Martinez project, the full board could potentially expect to see action on those in the forthcoming months. Next slide, please. Just a little more background on the program. In terms of budget, we allocate roughly about $2,500,000 a year in potential money available to the program. This is just money that's potentially available. The goal of the program is to really leverage funding sources from our partners, public and private, to fund these projects. This money is really thought of as seed money that we use to leverage other investment. And while that amount is set out in $2.5 million per year, the release of that money is only authorized through action by the full board upon the recommendation of the subcommittee, the pilot service subcommittee. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through a really quick highlight of some of the projects that we have in the implementation phase, just so everyone can kind of get a sense of where we're at right now. And then I'll just preview some of the efforts underway to develop the next round of pilot projects. Next slide, please. So our longest running pilot project is the Oakland Alameda Water Shuttle. So this project has been in operation for over a year at this point. It launched in July 2024. We actually launched 3 projects in that same month. So it was quite an eventful month for the board and certainly our staff as well. This project, I think, has been an absolute success from every metric that we look at it at. Ridership has exceeded its goal. It's operated reliably. We've developed a really strong working relationship with our partners at the City of Alameda, in particular, in administering the service and looking for opportunities to improve the schedule. And it has just received really great feedback. Next slide. And this is just look at the pattern here, not the individual numbers. There is a dip in the middle in the colder months of the year, but you'll see that initial high level of ridership that we had on the launch of the service in the summer of 2024 on the left hand of the chart. That's coming back as we get to the warmer part of the year here in 2025. So on a day-to-day basis, it's not necessarily evident from this chart, but we're seeing ridership continue to meet the high levels we saw last year, and even in some instances, particularly on the weekdays now, grow from previous levels. Two notes on this project. Based on the initial success, we have an effort underway with the City of Alameda to begin scoping out what a permanent version of this project would look like in terms of landings and vessels. And that's a study that's going to be kicked off by the City of Alameda with support from our staff. And we're also working closely with the City of Alameda to engage the Alameda County Transportation Commission to potentially look at funding and enhancement of this project as a mitigation measure for the Oakland Alameda Access Project, which is going to periodically shut down the Posey Tube for potentially the rest of time, but at least the next couple of years. And so no word on that yet, but we're applying some pressure to ACTC to potentially use this project as an opportunity to mitigate the effects of that larger project. Next slide, please. Second project that launched in July 2025 that's actually wrapped up as of this year in January 2025 is our Sea Change Hydrogen Demonstration Project. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on this because we've got an item later in the agenda that's going to present the results of our evaluation report on the performance of the project. So let's move to the next slide, please. In terms of other projects underway, we have two initiatives that we kicked off with for the Richmond service last year. The first was an attempt to enhance the weekend service from Richmond. What we had been seeing on Richmond is that it wasn't quite achieving the ridership levels that we've seen on our successful Vallejo and Alameda Oakland weekend services. And the hypothesis from staff as well as our stakeholders was, well, the schedule's not quite appealing enough. It's not equally appealing as those other services. And so we took the opportunity to, in a cost neutral way, redeploy some of our service on the weekends to enhance the schedule for Richmond. And that went live in April of this year. So we only have a few months of results to look at, but the returns have been encouraging. We're seeing the growth in the weekend service outpace the growth on the other weekend services that we operate. So encouraging signs on this one. We'll have a fuller report once we have more data available to bring to the subcommittee and eventually the full board. Second initiative in Richmond, it's not shown on this slide. It's currently underway. In a similar way, we did a pilot ballpark service for the Redwood City service last year. We did the same thing for the Richmond service this year. So a little different because people do have another way to get from Richmond via water transit to the ferry or to the ball game using the regular weekend service. But we wanted to test whether there's a market for dedicated service directly to the ballpark for Richmond. So again, results just coming in. We've operated, I think, half of the service that we plan to operate for the year, and we'll bring a fuller report back to the board later this year. Next slide. So our pilot projects don't always have to exist in the water. This is a great landside version of one of the pilot initiatives that we've had, which is really an opportunity to test different ways to kind of solve that first last mile gap to and from our terminals. And so this was a partnership with the Working Waterfront Coalition and MTC to specifically offer for the cohorts of the Working Waterfront Coalition classes discounted Uber rides from the Vallejo Ferry Terminal and Vallejo Transit Center to the classroom facility on Mare Island. So that facility is currently poorly served, or there's a lack of connecting transit options from the ferry terminal or transit center to the classroom. And so what we've done to promote people taking the ferry is offer discounted Uber rides from the ferry terminal to the classroom for those students during the the classroom hours that they need to attend. And that's an ongoing program, and it's been in place for since March 2025. Next slide, please. So we'll go into the two projects that are currently in development, and happy to answer any questions you have about any of the projects currently in the implementation or the development projects. Next slide, please. And this is the last slide, and we'll open up for questions. So again, those two projects that were identified as goals for the pilot service program by the full board of Vallejo Battery Electric Full Foil Vessel. We've completed some studies and we're in talks with some potential vessel designers and builders to potentially explore the option of bringing in a US built boat, a boat that doesn't exist today, but would potentially be built in the US to potentially operate on the Vallejo service on a pilot basis that would test a potential zero emission technology that could meet the service requirements of that long haul service. So one of the challenges with the long haul service such as Vallejo today, the battery electric technology that we're currently pursuing as part of the earlier phases of our REEF program, it can't meet the operating requirements that we have for the longer haul service due to limitations of the technology. And so this is an opportunity, if we find the right vendor, if we find the right vessel, if it can be built in America, to test a new technology that could open up an opportunity to electrify the Vallejo service. The Martinez project, probably still not quite as far along in conversation as the Vallejo project. Our kind of status on this one is we have staff engaging with one of our on-call marine engineers to kind of take a high level look at the feasibility of this project. So again, the concept for this project would be a zero emission foiling boat connecting a location in Martinez to our existing system via the Richmond terminal. So a lot that needs to kind of break in our favor for this one to be feasible, but we're doing everything we can to find a path forward on it. That concludes the update on the pilot service program. Like I said, happy to answer any questions you might have.
So thank you for the report. That's encouraging, and love the Alameda shuttle, and it's great, terrific, and look forward to that just growing and being, even more successful over time. My question is, like you're doing the outreach on South City with, for people who are using that, that's an established facility. So that's one approach to doing outreach. But, are we doing outreach to communities around the Bay and asking them, are you interested in, how do we know what we know? How do, because as you look around the Bay, there's a lot of waterfront communities, and, some of them, the way we provide service today, it'd just be infeasible for us to go with the vessels that we have and so forth. But with the vessels of tomorrow and maybe smaller vessels and so forth, maybe there's opportunities to go places we didn't think we could go. And, how do we know who wants ferry service, or, where there might be opportunities here, so that we're not just, looking narrowly, but we're looking kind of broadly at the potential. As I look down, I look at places like Emeryville, where there's a lot of intense commercial use over there, and I'm sure a lot of people are crossing the Bay to get either to or from. And you go down to San Leandro, and you go down to Fremont, or San Mateo. I would really love to take a look at. I've discussed this a few times. Get a serious meeting together with SFO, San Mateo County, and us, and whoever else needs to be involved, to see, is there any potential to have service run south of SFO, so that we could actually get people in numbers off the freeway and have a service that, would change the nature of our service. We wouldn't maybe get back to 60 million, but that'd be our biggest jump. And it would be great I also think it would be great for the airport and for travelers. So we looking at different, how did the committee kind of size up the options? Because it seems to me in some ways it's sort of a staff-driven, the staff need to sort of provide what the opportunities might be to allow the committee to think about what could be and shouldn't be.
Yeah, I can start, and Mike may have more to add, but our business plan process and the process that we went through with the entire region to develop that service vision, which is a living document, that included outreach to all of those communities. And those communities were all engaged with us. And we gave them what we felt like we owed them that didn't exist before. And that's a playbook. If you are interested in ferry service and expanding it like we are, here's how we can work together, and here's the boxes that need to be checked in order for us to pursue the expansion of ferry service to your community. And here's the roles and responsibilities of each of the partners involved. And it's a little bit of a new approach because we made it clear that we don't have we do have fiscal constraints that we need to keep in mind when we talk about expansion. We do have some opportunities to invest capital and operating resources in expansion, but they're limited. And so we need to collaborate with those communities to really make expansion happen in a way that can be tested as a part of a pilot program and then can be made permanent if that pilot service works in its initial exploration. And we're at the stage right now where we've had a number of conversations with those communities. Martinez has progressed to a stage where we think that it has potential to be a pilot service that operates to Richmond. There are others that will likely progress to that point too. Those communities are looking internally right now and trying to determine if they can identify the resources that would be needed to be active participants in a partnership like that, whether it's for a pilot service or something more permanent. And that's not an easy thing for them to consider because they have financial constraints as well. So I'm not surprised that it's taken some time for those communities to come back to us and say, here's what we can commit to from an operating or a capital perspective. But we expect that we will hear from some who are the most interested and will be able to elevate those services as a result.
And in some cases, you know, the determination of need is first and foremost created by the development community, not necessarily a city. So the city responds to a developer. Developer comes in with a proposal. You know, there's just goes to the planning commissions, whatever the process is, city council. And historically, what's happened is you end up with a development without ferry service and without funding for ferry service. And then a development happens and somebody says, well, what about ferry service? And we miss the window, both the public window, assuming, let's say, a county were to go on the ballot for a measure, or from the developer themselves for some kind of a fee-based system, Melrose or whatever that would look like. So my encouragement, to the team is to really be working, not only with the cities, but with the development community around the Bay, with almost like a development hat on ourselves, to say, look, because there's going to be more. I think there's going to be more things happening around the waterfront in the future. And I want to make sure I look at the Brooklyn Basin project over in Oakland. That's a project that should be ferry served. And I don't know how many people are living over there or what the status of that is, but that one should have incorporated ferry service, on the front end. So anyway, a lot of examples could be given, but
yeah, you're absolutely right, and we so sometimes we are connected to those developers who are pursuing opportunities through the cities that know what's happening, and sometimes we depend on the other stakeholders and advocacy organizations, including the Bay Area Council, to connect us with those folks, and we've done that really successfully, I think, with the waterfront development. Task force that Bay Area Council has led. That's resulted in connections with groups like the power station development that have planned and invested in the infrastructure necessary to provide ferry service there in the future. We're doing that same thing with SAMCETA in San Mateo County, who is connecting us with those who are interested in waterfront development, and we're helping them understand what might be needed to initiate that and eventually pursue it. With Martinez, they also have a new development proposal for
Yep.
their marina area, and that's gone to their city council, and they're very excited about that. And so are we. When we toured the area a few years ago, we said, where are all the houses and the office spaces going to be? And they said, we don't have anything planned for that yet, but they do now. So there's some exciting stuff happening. We've met with that developer and given them the technical specifications that they need to understand for what a terminal needs to look like, how it should be constructed in order for us to serve it in the future. And those conversations are ongoing. So we're trying to leave no stone unturned and make sure that we're connecting with all of the folks that we can.
So let's just, as going forward, let's put that meeting together with SFO and company in San Mateo County, just to see, is it feasible? I know it might not be, but if it is, that would be the biggest game changer we could have in the region.
Will do. Okay, I think that concludes the pilot committee update. I do want to ask Lauren to provide a legislative update. Chair Wonderman, you identified some opportunities here at the end of session, some successes, some things that didn't go our way, and Lauren's going to give us a breakdown of where things stand with some of those pieces of legislation.
Thank you. Afternoon, directors and Chair Wonderman. As you mentioned, Chair Wonderman, that we had some good news, and we had some not so great news, and there's some stuff in between. So I'm going to go with the good news first. As you mentioned, SB 71, it's a bill that would extend a current sunset date from January 2030, excuse me, out to 2040 for a group of projects that would receive CEQA exemptions. And this bill, SB 71, also includes additional projects such as the construction of new ferry terminals that are served solely by zero-emission vessels. So this exemption applies only to terminals that have not started the environmental review process. So just as an FYI, it would not include Berkeley or Redwood City, but it would include future terminals. And we sought this exemption to reduce the duplicative environmental requirements that increase costs by hundreds of thousands of dollars, and also extend project timelines by up to about a year and a half. If the governor does sign this bill, because it did pass through the legislature, so the last step is the governor's signature. If he does sign the bill, then CEQA would not be required for the construction of new terminals served solely, which I can't seem to say, by zero-emission vessels. But that does not mean that we don't have to do anything. We still have to comply with lots of different environmental requirements. And I just want to be clear what those are, because it is quite technical. And so we'd still need to comply with all federal and state environmental laws, such as the Federal and State Endangered Species Act. And it also does not relieve us of the responsibility that is required, environmental responsibilities that are required from up to 14 different regulatory permits that we are required to get to construct a new ferry terminal. And those permits require a whole slew of things, such as analyzing potential impacts to the environment, protected species, habitats, and developing the project to avoid, minimize, and mitigate impacts and to monitor compliance. So we're really just trying to avoid that duplicative work and streamline the project and have a shorter project timeline. So that is the good news. I'm going to go to the bad news first, because I don't want to end on the bad news. As you mentioned, SB 79 seeks to basically create a larger or more dense housing around TOD stops, transit-oriented development stops. And so ferry terminals were included in, they had different project types. And so there was tier 3. Ferry terminals was included in tier 3, which allowed for densities of either 60 to 80 units per acre, depending on how far you are from the actual TOD stop. And unfortunately, during a slew of amendments that happened 2 Fridays or 1 Friday ago, almost 2 weeks ago, as of tomorrow, ferry terminal, or the tier 3 projects were stripped from the bill. And unfortunately, they were grouped along with frequent commuter rail and TOD stops in non-urban counties. And so that brought a lot of opposition from local communities. And unfortunately, we're just caught up in the opposition from those local communities. It's obviously not great, as you mentioned. That would allow more densities around ferry terminals, which would provide a built-in ridership base, which is what we need to make sure that we have good ferry service that is that has a good ridership base. But the end result is we're not in there right now. We did, in fact, pull our support letter. And so we changed it to a support if amended position. And we also memorialized a commitment that we received from the author's office to work on including ferry terminals in a slew of amendments that are expected to happen next year. So that is the bad news. The news that's not quite news yet is that SB 63, which is the regional revenue measure, is still going through the legislature. There's a lot of a flurry of activity right now. It is allowed to be acted on tonight after 5:08 p.m. And so I obviously have no news for you now, but if it's acted on the floor, it may have to go back to the Senate Transportation Committee and as well as the Senate floor vote. But it sounds like a lot of people are doing a lot of work to make sure to get the votes that are needed to pass this. Again, it would provide about 0.66% of the total revenue from the tax measure for for San Francisco Bay Ferry, and that's predicted to be approximately $7 million a year. And there's a whole slew of amendments that have happened in the last couple of days here to figure out different procedures for oversight of the funds and the financial efficiency reviews that are required for the big four agencies that are receiving revenues from this measure. So a lot of things are still being worked out. And we signed on to a floor alert that went out yesterday, and that's going to be together, or it will go to the legislators who are hearing the bill as soon as tonight. And our advocates are up in Sacramento right now, making sure they're following every step of the way. So we're doing everything that we can to help pass that bill. And we'll let you guys know as soon as we hear anything. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that on the federal side, in addition to what the legislative update that's in your packet, we were able to secure a meeting. Yesterday, we were able to secure a meeting with the new FTA administrator that will happen on October 14th to discuss our transition to battery electric technology to promote the financial sustainability of our service and how that is helpful for FTA, for the FTA money that's been awarded to San Francisco Bay Ferry and how that's going to contribute to some of the Trump administration's priorities, such as reducing federal expenditures and expanding the U.S. manufacturing jobs, especially in the shipbuilding industry. So it's a great opportunity for us, and we're excited to be able to secure that meeting. That is all I have.
Well, thank you for the report. Appreciate it. I'll mention I got a nice call from Congressman DeSaulnier, who said that his colleague, Representative Rick Larson, who visited us a few months ago, and you gave him a great tour and experience. He said, Mark DeSaulnier said that Larson, who's the ranking member of the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee, really is favorably impressed with our ferry service and, very positively disposed toward supporting us in the future. So that's his impression, which is really positive. I would say on the legislative front, given everything we sort of know, maybe time flies when you're having fun. So we're right now focused on what's in front of us, and then there's going to be governor for signature and things like that. But within a few months, we'll be looking at next year. And I'm wondering about the potential of a bill that would give this board the authority to go on the ballot in the Bay Area and see if there's, legislative, willingness to consider that idea. Because I think we're going to need it. $7 million a year is good, but our costs are rising by more than that, and we're going to really need. And then our capital costs in the future, I think, 300 million sounded like a lot in Regional Measure 3, but we're talking long term here. So I don't know if that's politically viable or not, but I think we should really start talking about it. And because we're not that big. Our expenditures are not that huge compared to the big agencies. We could potentially go on the ballot in the Bay Area with a very broad base. We hit a lot of counties, with a very broad-based measure that really doesn't cost people very much and would have a big impact for us. So just a thought. Other folks comment? Okay, thank you.
Chair Wonderman, that concludes the executive director's report. I did want to mention, and you mentioned the incident last night on our Richmond service, and so I just wanted to discuss that briefly. It's not on the agenda for discussion, so I'll just call out that we did have an individual on the Richmond service with a medical emergency last night. That emergency unfortunately resulted in a fatality. The crews notified first responders who were there waiting at the terminal to deal with that situation, and unfortunately there was nothing that could be done to save the passenger. There's obviously an investigation to determine the cause of the emergency itself, and we don't know the results of that. It's unfortunate that this happened. It does not happen very frequently on our service, fortunately, and I can just only think about the crews and the passengers and what they had to go through, let alone the individual who lost their life and the family that probably is impacted by that.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, and I know all our thoughts go out to the family of that person and all of the people who are affected by it. So I know we'll at some point we'll get a briefing on, what we think actually happened that led to that. Okay, with that, I think that's the conclusion of the report, right? So we're ready for the consent calendar. Is that right? Okay, so let's go to item 6 on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. It has 4 items, A, B, C, and D. I won't read them out. Does any member of the board wish to remove an item and hear it separately? Hearing none, I'll take a motion on the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Melanie, could you call the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Dew,
Yes.
and Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The consent calendar passes.
Thank you. Item number 7, consent calendar is approved. Item 7, authorize the submittal to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission of an allocation request for $8,886,000 in Regional Measure 3 capital funds for the Hydrus class conversion to battery electric ferries project.
Good afternoon, Board. Jennifer Alpach, Grants Manager, here to request approval to submit an RM3 allocation request for $8,886,000 for the Hydrus class conversion to battery electric ferries project. As a reminder, we've been given, or not given, but programmed $300 million for the ferry enhancement program as part of the RM3 capital program. I want to, before we move to action, I want to point out the number in the discussion paragraph referencing the total funding for the project at 22.4 million. That is a correction that we need to make. It is actually 23.5 million, which is the total funding for the project. So with that, before I ask Tim to step up to discuss the project, I want to mention that this is the 7th RM3 allocation request submitted to MTC. With that, it's about 71 million that we have allocated so far. And the remaining balance is $229 million. So I'm going to ask Tim to step up to talk about the project.
And that, just to clarify, that 79 million, I think you said, is inclusive of, or is it 71 million? 70, that's inclusive of this expenditure?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman, members of the board. Thank you. I'm here today to give a brief update on the Hydrus class conversion and just talk about kind of the process where we're at and why we are deciding to convert these vessels. So this is the first retrofit that we'll be doing as part of our fleet. our CARB plan, we currently have outlined converting all 4 of the Hydros class vessels. The Hydros was delivered in 2017. We feel like it's a great opportunity to convert a vessel that is fairly new. It only has a few years under its belt. It's been very reliable and kind of put in a lot of work for us over the course of the last years. And so we think it's a perfect vessel to convert. And so we started down this path about a year ago looking into it. We were awarded a VW grant, so it's the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Fund for $14.5 million to convert this vessel. It's the first time we've ever worked with VW, and it's the largest grant that they've ever awarded as part of the trust fund. The engineer's estimate for just the construction side of the conversion is 20.8 million. And once again, this, you know, is a cornerstone kind of our reef program as part of our ACE plan to ensure that we meet compliance with the CARB mandates. Aurora Marine Design has been selected as the designer. We feel like they were best suited to accomplish this work since they are the current construction managers on the 150 PAX zero emission vessel that's currently under construction. They were also the construction managers on the original build of the Hydros class, and they serve as our system architect for our zero emissions transition. As mentioned, preliminary engineering started about 6 months ago to ensure that we had a vetted option to ensure that we can actually accomplish this with the goal in mind of keeping the equipment the same as possible to the 150 and the 400 PAX vessels. And so that's what as we continue through the design, and we plan on finishing that up at the end of this year, the beginning of 2026, is to try to create fleet commonality throughout to ensure that the equipment that we're putting on this vessel matches the equipment on the 400 and the 150. That'll help us with reliability, service, crew training. We anticipate the conversion taking about 23 months and hopefully starting that in July of 2026. Commissioning and sea trials mid-2028. Entering service in late 2028. Our current grant deadline for the VW grant is December of 2028. Next steps, complete the detailed engineering by the end of this year, release RFP for shipyard conversion, secure any long lead material that we feel that we need to order now in order to speed up the project. And then continue to work on the port infrastructure projects that we have, the various port infrastructure projects. So this is a huge milestone for us in the agency. We're really excited about this project, and it's out of all the new vessels that we're bringing on and everything that we're doing with the infrastructure, converting the Hydros class and deploying that into the Central Bay service will make the biggest emissions impact that we can for our agency. So we're really excited to kick this off, and I can answer any questions that the board may have.
So, this is very exciting, and I think I can understand the excitement you have in doing it. We have a vessel that we paid, a lot of money for, whatever the amount was at the time. It seemed like real money at the time. And it's got 8 years of operation, which means it's has a serviceable engine that, we won't be using anymore because it's going to switch to battery. So could you talk a little bit about what happens to that engine after we kind of strip it out and we put in the battery engines? Are we, giving up, a valuable asset, or, how do we think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's tier 3 M2 engines and an aftermarket SCR system on those vessels. And we did just recently purchase those. We don't have any grant obligations as of right now with those engines. And so what we plan to do with the first vessel is remove those engines and keep them as good working spares for the other 3 vessels before they're converted. And so the current plan is to convert the Hydros in 2028 and then the following 3 vessels every year after that. And one of the main reasons we're doing that is just to not put such a burden on operations and to ensure that we keep as many vessels in service as we can. And so as the first engines come out, we'd be packaging those up and putting them in our warehouse and using them for spares in case there was something, if there was, an engine failure, or if we needed parts, and so we could utilize it there. As we progress through the rest of the conversions, our plan is to put them on the market and sell them.
Got it. But thank you. Other members of the board, questions? Not seeing or hearing. Members of the public, has anyone signed up to speak on item 7, Melanie?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone here or in the virtual world like to speak or ask a question about item 7? If not, thank you for the presentation. We'll take a motion.
I'd make a motion to authorize the submission of the Measure 3 funds for the hydrous conversion.
Second.
And just to clarify, because it's a higher amount than was in the agenda, do we have to be specific about the motion being that higher number? Or are we okay with, how does that work, Stephen?
The change in number just reflected a background item in the staff report itself. The resolution and the action, I think, are unchanged.
Perfect, thank you. So we have a motion, a second. Can we call a roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Du,
Yes.
and Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
Congratulations. Let's go make a new boat out of a somewhat new boat.
Yes.
But that is great. Okay, item number 8, memorandum of understanding with San Mateo County Harbor District for 2026 South San Francisco dredging event.
Thank you, Chair Wonderman and Board of Directors. Chad Mason, Capital Planning Manager. Today, I'm presenting an item to authorize the Executive Director to execute a memorandum of understanding with the San Mateo County Harbor District for the 2026 dredging event. We're preparing to do this in the late summer or fall of 2026. Oyster Point Marina is owned by the San Mateo County Harbor District. We have a long-term lease with the Harbor District to have the terminal there. Part of that lease requires us dredging obligations to maintain greater than 8-foot depth in our lease premises. We dredge to 10 plus 2, total of 12 in the mean low tide. And that's also critical to maintain safe and efficient operating scenario in the terminal. Right now, Oyster Point Ferry Terminal requires dredging every 5 to 7 years. We regularly do bathymetric surveys just to monitor the situation and make sure that we're prepared to permit and design these events. And it is a bit of a cumbersome permitting process with multiple agencies. So we want to stay out ahead of that and make sure we don't have any problems. For this upcoming event in 2026, the district requested San Francisco Bay Ferry also perform dredging of their Dock 11 area, which is immediately to the east of our ferry terminal basin. It's an open berthing situation there. It is in need of dredging. And in the spirit of collaboration, promoting efficiency and minimizing disruption at the terminal, respective staffs were coordinated to develop an MOU. The MOU establishes a coordinated process for design, permitting, execution, and cost allocation for the respective dredging operations, each party bearing responsibility for a specific dredging area. The district approved entering the MOU at San Francisco Bay Ferry at its meeting on August 20th, 2025. Planning, design, permitting is underway, and it is anticipated that the permitting will be completed in the spring of 2026, and the dredging contract would be awarded in July 2026. That concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So this is one of those deals where we're working together, we share costs, we sort of share responsibility, reading through it.
Exactly. And if they were to go ahead and we did it separately and they were to dredge Dock 11 on their own, it would disrupt our service. So it's less disruption to the terminal, the area, and recreational boaters and our service.
Thank you. Any directors have comments, questions on item 8?
Chad, I just really appreciate the coordination, especially environmentally. And I was pleased to see the MOU that you included just so I could answer the questions that I had because I was concerned about indemnification. So thanks for including that.
Thank you. Other members of the board, questions, comments? Hearing none. Melanie, anyone signed up on item 8?
No one has signed up to speak.
Any member of the public here present or virtual wish to speak on the item?
Hello, can you hear me?
We have some.
Andre, can you put that?
Yeah,
Uh,
see it on mine.
Mr. Huff?
Yeah, hey, just clarification on this. Would this shut down access to the Oyster Point Marina during the dredging? It just wasn't clear in the presentation or from the questions if this would shut down access for the public ferry.
No, it would not. There will
Okay.
will be a period in time where the terminal will be removed and the ferry service will be disrupted to actually do the work. It's probably several weeks, but we will be working to notify riders and all of our stakeholders down there as we get closer to the event. We really need to finish our design and get the surveys done to know exactly how long that disruption would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. The terminal needs to be removed, so there will be disruption.
Okay.
Other comments, questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public testimony. And Melanie, if can we get a motion? I think we need a motion on this.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Director Du, Vice Chair Moyer, motion second. Can you call the roll, please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Du,
Yes.
and Director Hannafary.
Yes.
The item passes.
Okay, thank you. Motion and items.
Chad, will you just, you all will do outreach because the gentleman that spoke was from Genentech. So you guys will obviously coordinate back with the riders in the Oyster Point area.
We will conduct more specific outreach when we know the exact dates of when it would happen.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Item 9, approve actions relative to RFQ 25-003 Treasure Island Electrification Construction Materials Procurement.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chair Wonderman and distinguished members of the board. My name is Min Tran. I'm a project manager in the engineering and capital delivery team here at San Francisco Bay Ferry. And today we're requesting for the approval of actions related to RFQ 25-003 for the Treasure Island Ferry Terminal Electrification Construction Materials Procurement. We recommend for the board to approve a contract award to Wesco Distribution in the amount of $339,000. And we also request for the authorization for the executive director to negotiate and enter into an agreement and take any additional actions necessary to support this work. To offer a little bit more background into this project and why this procurement is necessary. So the Treasure Island Ferry Terminal Electrification is part of phase 1 of SF Bay Ferry's REEF program. This project will make the Treasure Island Ferry Terminal one of the first San Francisco Bay Ferry terminals to be electrified, supporting the first all-electric high-speed ferry vessel network in North America. This procurement is specifically for the purchase of long lead time electrical utility equipment, such as transformer and switchgear, which are necessary in order to take power from the local utility down to the existing ferry terminal in order to charge our new electric vessels. This procurement is also necessary due to the long lead time nature of this material, and in order to ensure that the overall ferry terminal electrification remains on schedule with the overall REEF program. This also is a really big procurement and marks the first step in the infrastructure material improvements for our landside vessel terminals in support of the overall REEF program. So this makes it a really large milestone for the board in that respect as well. An RFQ for the construction materials was originally released on May 9th of this year, 2025. However, following that, staff learned of a more efficient procurement method by using an existing Omnia Partners government cooperative agreement. through Wesco Distribution. This Omnia Government Cooperative Agreement allows for companies such as Wesco Distribution in order to sign on and have a streamlined procurement method, which is approved and in support of federal and state governmental agencies. This agreement has been fully reviewed by our legal team and is in full compliance with SF Bay Ferry's administrative code. This agreement ultimately ensures that organizations that are signed on to this government cooperative agreement are limited in available pricing markup and meet all government procurement requirements and standards. Upon review of Wesco's proposal, SF Bay Ferry staff has determined that all of the technical and delivery requirements have been met, that Wesco has certified the Buy America compliance material of this material, and has provided reasonable pricing that is below our independent cost estimate. This procurement is fully funded by TRCP funds and is included in the FY 25-26 capital budget, which allocates $3.4 million for the overall Treasure Island Ferry Terminal electrification. The exact award amount for this contract is $339,298.54. So to wrap it all up, the staff recommends to award this contract to Wesco Distribution and to authorize the executive director to move forward with this agreement. This procurement is necessary and ensures the timely delivery of materials that are critical to advancing electrification and positioning San Francisco Bay Ferry as a national leader in zero emission ferry service. With that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the detailed explanation of what we're doing here, because it's slightly complicated, but I think readily understandable. And it's great to see us out ahead, and from capital planning standpoints, making sure it's probably good to have the equipment before you install it and that sort of thing. Not being an engineer myself, I would probably forget that small element. So thanks. I don't have any questions. Do members of the board have questions, please? Mike? Director Du.
Just curious, is PG&E the electric provider to Treasure Island? Do we know?
San Francisco
of
Public
course.
Utility
Yep. Yep.
is
Okay.
the SFPUC.
Yeah.
Yes.
And any concerns about delays from that perspective of the terminal or the infrastructure?
With SFPUC, or
Mhm.
so we've been in close coordination with SFPUC. So the actual transformer and switchgear have been procured, and the tech specs that we've developed are in alignment with SFPUC requirements as well. And so once we get the final shop drawings, when we go forward with this procurement, we'll get final approval and say from SFPUC as well. But so far, it's been a very streamlined, efficient process.
That's great. Okay. Yeah. The only reason I ask is because I've been hearing of other development projects in other parts of the region that are seeing delays because of the utility provider, not the logistical side, the soft side, but the hard, when they're actually going to break ground, they're backed up and delayed because of other projects. So I was just curious if we're seeing that here at all. So it doesn't sound like it, but thank you.
Thank you. Other members of the board on item number 9? Okay, members of the public, anyone signed up, Melanie, to speak on item number 9?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone wish to speak on item number 9, either here or in the virtual world?
Nobody in the virtual world either.
No one wants to speak on the item. They all understand it, and all of their curiosity is satiated. Yeah, I just will say before we take a motion that we've talked for so many years about this terminal at Treasure Island and connecting it to San Francisco, and agreeing this would be done through electrified vessels, and so it's great to see it beginning to really take shape and come together. So thank you, team, for moving that ahead. Or be excited. That'll be a first ride. Everybody on the board has to be there for that. That's going to be a big deal. Let's take a motion on item number 10, item number 9.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. There's a rush to get that. Okay, we've got a motion second. Melanie, would you please?
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Du.
Yes.
And Director Hannafary.
Yes.
The item passes.
We spend a lot of time thinking and talking about alternate power systems for our vessels, don't we? So let's go to item number 10. Sea Change Hydrogen Ferry Demonstration Project Evaluation Report.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. Gabriel Chan, Transportation Planner here at SF Bay Ferry. And we're here to request board action to receive the Sea Change Hydrogen Ferry Demonstration Project Evaluation Report, which is attached in your packet. Could you advance to the next slide, please? Next slide. Thank you. So this just gives us a quick overview of kind of the three phases of what we're looking at for pilot projects, right? There's the initial planning phase where we work out the MOU, the agreement, the funding, et cetera. The implementation where we monitor the project performance, collect data, and administer the project. And then the final phase, which is the evaluation, which is what we're here today to discuss, where we analyze the data, look at the key findings and feasibility, and then present to the board the final evaluation report. So in 2024, before the launch of the Sea Change demonstration project, the board subcommittee and the board reviewed the goals and objectives and the basis of evaluation for this project. The 6-month pilot completed in January of 2025. And since then, SF Bay Ferry staff have been preparing the evaluation report, crunching the numbers, looking at both qualitative and quantitative data to bring you this final report today. Next slide. So as it stands now, the Sea Change is still under lease through Switch and Blue and Gold, and that's to maintain the certificate of inspection through the Coast Guard. They're still currently running demonstrations with the vessel in the bay, even though the demonstration project with SF Bay Ferry has since concluded. And then in the final evaluation report, I'll just go over some of the highlights that we have in there. So the first one of the major successes is that since this vessel was the first of its kind, getting that initial COI through the Coast Guard was a major win. There were no safety incidents during the entire pilot project. And then crews also gained a lot of valuable training and experience by getting to work on the vessel and work to maintain it. One thing that we did note in the evaluation report is that the local hydrogen fueling and delivery market in the Bay Area needs a little bit more development. The fueling was a bit challenging, having to get the vessel out in the southern waterfront and then having restrictions kind of around when we could fuel with other activities that are in the waterfront. And then in terms of vessel reliability and speed, the vessel did not quite meet the reliability and speed requirements that we have of our regular service. As you know, we have close to 100% on-time performance in our fleet, and that's really hard to match for a burgeoning technology like hydrogen fuel cell, which is kind of, it's first of its kind, never been done before. Overall, the public-private partnership model was successful, though. It was a great collaboration between all the partners, leveraged funding from various sources, both public and private. And SF Bay Ferry staff are going to continue to assess the technology and monitor how the Sea Change is doing with Switch and look for opportunities for potential demonstration projects in the future. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions. Tom Hall is also here to talk about the operation as well, if you would like.
Chair Wonderman, if I could just add and add my thanks to Mike Gowerty and his planning team for helping get this project started. My thanks to Blue and Gold Fleet for working with us on this project. It proved very challenging at times to our operator and our staff to make sure that this project could continue to function, continue to operate, and that we would get what we expected to get out of this demonstration project. And I want to make sure I clarify that when we say that the vessel didn't meet the speed and reliability requirements of our fleet, we never expected it to. This is why it's a pilot demonstration vessel. It's the first of its kind, so we expected that we would have reliability issues, and that's part of the learning experience that we hope to get for our crews and experience working on this type of propulsion technology. We accomplished that. We knew that the speed of the vessel would not be adequate to serve some of our longer distance routes, but that doesn't mean that a hydrogen vessel can't be constructed in the future that will operate at speeds that will work for our routes. That's not what we're saying in this report, and I just wanted to make sure that we are clear on that.
Thank you. Just say, I know a lot of work went into this, and I remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, I got a visit from Joe Pratt from Lawrence Livermore Lab at the Bay Area Council talking about making a hydrogen vessel, passenger vessel. And I said, go, Joe. And followed it along, here and there in its development, and Switch came into it, and and then we collectively raised private money to operate this, and I thought it was a great partnership between SF Bay Ferry and Switch, and the port, and all the folks, Bay Area Council, all of us who had to sort of contributed in different ways to make it happen. And I agree, Seamus, that it wasn't intended to, be, competitive with our other vessels in terms of speed or reliability. It was really was a proof of concept opportunity for that I didn't think we should miss. I felt we should be the first to test out technology like this, and so we were, and it worked. And it was exciting. And, we had, the governor on that vessel, Senator Padilla on that vessel, many, many other leaders, came to test it out. And it gave us some, I think, some real positive notoriety for doing it. And a lot of people had a lot of fun with it. And we took groups on it and so forth. And, everybody who took a spin on that vessel got to be on the first passenger hydrogen vessel in the world. So that was, I think, a really big deal. So I know it was frustrating to the folks who operated it that some days you push the button and, the wrong things happen and all of that. We had a lot of that. But ultimately it functioned, and I do think, from what I know about the technology, it does give us the potential on some longer routes where batteries, we talked earlier about, the limitations of batteries today with today's technology to Vallejo. We may want to go to Vallejo, we may want to go farther than Vallejo in the future, and we just may run up against some limitations with batteries that could be overcome with hydrogen. So, I'm hopeful that we'll kind of continue to be supportive of, looking at different technologies, zero emission technologies. And there's a certain beauty, and everybody liked drinking the water, from I mean, that was just great stuff, So anyway, thank you for the diligence on this, the whole team. But thank you. Thomas, did you want to make any comments? You're just there to answer questions.
Seamus and Gabe covered everything from an operational standpoint. We put it into the best service that we could based on the characteristics of the vessel, both capacity and speed, and worked really closely. Just want to again commend Blue and Gold Fleet for their work on this. The crew that operates it is the only crew in the world that can operate that vessel, which is the first hydrogen fuel cell passenger vessel, and they're really proud of that fact, as well they should be. So definitely in terms of workforce development locally, that San Francisco expertise that we have here, that we take such pride in, and innovation, and being the first. Golden Gate Ferry was a contributor to the project as well, and their staff came and learned about the vessel, and it was trained on how it operates. So there's a lot of positive in terms of the maritime community here in the Bay Area that will then spread out across, hopefully, North America and beyond.
Yeah. And Gabe mentioned right up front the Coast Guard, and I remember those events, and there was so much pride among their team in working with us on our team, to make this happen. And taking a little, maybe a little bit of risk, probably not, the Coast Guard wouldn't do it if they felt there was risk. So, and the fact that we didn't have any safety incidents is probably the most important factoid in this, and glad you put it at the top. So thank you. Members of the board, comments, questions? If not, members of the public, would you like to make a comment or ask a question on item number 10, which is an action item, because we're going to accept this report as an action item? Melanie, anyone signed up?
No one has signed up to speak.
Anyone wish to make a comment, ask a question? If not, we'll close that public comment and take a motion on accepting this report.
Make a motion to accept the report.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we've got seconds, we've got thirds. Okay, let's call the roll.
Chair Wonderman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Moyer,
Yes.
Director Alba,
Yes.
Director Dew,
Yes.
and Director Henneberry.
Yes.
The item passes.
All right, congratulations. And we will move on to the second part of our public comments for non-agendized items. Has anyone signed up on item 11 to comment?
No one has signed up to speak.
Any member of the public wishing to comment on anything not on the agenda, here or in the virtual world? Hearing none, we'll close the public comments for item number 11. Thanks, everybody. A real good discussion. We got it done in time for wherever it is you had to go. You can go there, and meeting's adjourned.